Hey there guys, welcome to this week's reviews. Today we are talking about Myrath, a Tunisian metal band, Danny. We are covering all across the world in our podcast / YouTube channel where I moved to the visual aspect of instead of our oral aspect.
Yeah, we thought that might help improve our plays and listens. And
and we should find new and creative ways to disappoint our mother as well.
Yeah, okay.
With that, we got this album. I think it's Shehili. We're going to go with Shehili. It's a Tunisian band, like we said before. It still is, apparently, which is good for them. Mm-hmm. They are an interesting band to talk about, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Mostly their arrangement and their uses of certain instruments that aren't typically found in Western music. Yeah. So that's going to really help give them their own creative and their own sounds. Now, they've also opened for bands like Adagio as well, who we have covered. A very great band that unfortunately died with a whimper. We did review their last album, and that wasn't so fantastic.
It's too genty, man.
Very genty for a band that was like classic, neo-classical prog metal at its peak. You know, you can find it's very hard to find some quality music like that.
Guys have changed, man.
And they do
change.
They've also playing with bands like Dream Theater, Wasp, Tarja Turner, and Symphony X in 2016 in Europe. That will be very important to remember because we will talk about that. Won't be the first time we mention that band here in this review. Spoiler warning, Danny.
I mention Symphony X all the time, even at work. Very inappropriate.
Now, during interviews, according to Wiki, they are always acknowledging they're highly influenced by Tunisian culture and North African heritage. They show that as well. There's some of that dialect that they use in their certain songs as well, certain verses and that, which we'll touch on going into this album. Now, they've had previously five previous albums, I'm pretty sure, as you can see there, Danny. This is their sixth album, which is great. Yep. 2005 is where it all started, but it was released in Tunisia, the first album, as Ecstasy. We got it here as Double Face. There you go, Danny.
Ecstasy. Sounds like an X-Men version of like Tasmanian Devil. Yeah,
they've had 7 previous members since then, so
that's not bad.
That's not too bad. That's not less than one a year, which is decent levels.
Every 2 years, it's pretty good.
And currently now we have 5 in the lots. We've got Malek on guitar, Elias on keyboards, Anes on bass, Zahir on lead vocals, and Morgan Beher on drums. One guitarist. Who?
Really?
Yeah,
but they got a keyboard. Yeah,
they got a keyboard as well. Who does that, Danny? It's another band. Rhymes with X. First name Symphony.
We say Deep Purple.
You could say that. Yeah. And there is a Hammond organ solo.
I know.
Not enough, but it's in one of the tracks. We'll start off with Born to Survive, the first track. Now you get some of that throaty native tongue, and I showed it to my girlfriend. She's like, "Is this the Lion King?" I'm like, "That's fair enough."
Oh, same area.
You know, that Northern African influence. You know, maybe that was the biggest driving force for the Disney Corporation at the time. But it's cool. It's very unique, and it catches your interest. Like, oh, that's unusual. And you get those scale-like ideas, you know, those harmonic minors kind of scales, and those very interesting passages in the intro as well. Some group chanting. It's very kind of peaceful, but it kicks in around 148. And like you said, Danny, that 148 riff, it's a bit of a mint.
Yeah, that's because technically the first minute is another song, but it blends into into track 2, which is Born to Survive as well. Yeah, you're right. And then the track gets into like a pretty heavy rock and riff, which is really cool because you didn't know what to expect because the first intro was pretty much right at the throat, seemed very tribal, very native. Yeah. But then it gets pretty much, you could say, a Western type of riff, type heavy.
It does in a sense. Well, using some of those scalic ideas that you'd find more in the Middle East, I guess, that's is appropriated now by every death metal band in the world. Thank you for that, by the way. The verse breaks it up. It's very percussive on guitars with those hits, you know, with the strings coming in as well to add some flavor to it, instantly giving that epic feel. Vocal wire, somewhere, how would we describe this guy on vocals? Is it power metal, or is it that infusion of the new metal guys who was trying to borrow off power metal guys like David Drahem from and Seven Dust and stuff like that as well? Right. Where, if you had to explain this guy's vocals to someone, and not so much the chanty Tunisian style, the more Western singing style.
Yeah, it sounds... I don't know. It's true. It's very... look, it's more... not operatic, but you can tell he's definitely classically trained dude. It has great power, great control. It's not as like heavy as Russell Allen, but it's in that type of like scale range and that type of delivery.
Yeah,
it's more romantic in his ability.
Yeah.
It's not as
more sensitive
heavy.
and softer than other ones, but I still think he has a little bit of girth to his vocals when he needs to as well.
Yeah, the second to last track he gets a bit that way, but yeah, it's a very it's kind of like the whole adagio type of singing, all that, like all that progressive, like medium progressive.
He does this really like a bar dum bar kind of thing, which kind of did remind me of that classic David Drahem Disturbed kind of style. You know, very percussive use of the vocal lines. But I still think it's a decent song, guitar solo, very tasty and very technically proficient as well. It's nice and it comes down to really well for the finale. Has a very progressive vibe to it that does remind me of certain other bands that we talked about previously in this podcast.
And then this band likes to do the thing where it makes the big chorus sound, so it gets very sometimes emotive, or just sometimes a bit more rocky in the chorus. To have more strings chucked into, more instrumentation to separate them. Give a bit of a epitone to the song. So yeah, and they do that quite well. Not
a bad way to start the album, we thought. So we move on to track 2 with You've Lost Yourself. Into the starting proceedings, guitar has this really kick-ass lead. Sirens are beckoning, like really over the top, almost crushing over the whole entire riff at one point.
I wonder if the sirens was the vocals, like the guy when you do the warm-up excerpt.
Well, I don't know, but this guy's smashing the crap out of his cymbals as well on the drums. It's not the first time off this album's a typically prog intro where you have this awesome generated energy in the riff where it just drops right off for the verse, only for the song to then start from there and build and build and build. And this band does it quite well. This isn't the first time they do it, but on this album, the guitarist or the band, what they do is do this soft intro verse, so the verse. When the verse returns, they add more elements into the second verse to make it more interesting. It's a cool effect, and they do it really well on this one here. The chorus comes in and it's more like a truly ballad kind of experience where it's far more romantic and just kind of swells in nature, and it's quite a lovely experience, I think, Danny.
Yeah, that's right. They slow it down. The singing reflects that as well, and instrumentation reflects that. But then now the chorus goes back to that fast opening riff, intro riff. So it's actually so it's not really the verse. It's kind of like the intro riff is kind of the outro of the chorus as well, and then it goes from there as well. And
a nice guitar solo, which is going to be pretty much the standard of the course of the rest of the album. You're always going to get a guitar solo with these tracks, which is not a bad thing, or even a guitar lead kind of pops in around that third quarter mark to set up the last chorus, and then it comes in.
Yeah, but like saying, even when the solo is, they always chuck in different like licks or different lines just to help make it a bit more bubbly, a bit more exciting.
The chorus is super sad. The delivery is pretty decent. There is a big breakdown, 3 minutes 20 in. Danny, did you get to hear that one?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
got a commercial sound to it. I think it really will generate well on that new metal kind of stage, but nevertheless, it's not bad. Acoustic strings to add the epic nature towards the end of the song, and we're at the end.
Yeah, very nice.
Not a bad song. With Dance, number 3 now. Very much a transportative song. It feels like a Bollywood musical. When I heard it, I was like, wow, I can imagine these dancers dying.
What's that mercenary song you like? The one which is like the whole swing and you could dance to a wedding to it. It has that feel to it. So the chorus again is very nice, romantic, and
there's a lot of passion in their playing and their performance here, and they really give it their all, these guys, you know, albeit in that 4 minute to 5 minute track length.
It reminds me of Floor Jansen's band Revamped. The song had that type of feel to it. So if you like that album,
it's a groovy, catchy, proggy in nature track. You know, 2 minutes 15, some very exotic sounding passages in their native tongue, I'd imagine. Moving to a guitar solo that uses a lot of those intricacies and melodies throughout the album. And I think that's what the guitar solos really deserve to be acknowledged for, is that they take on the feel of a track, and he uses that story in the guitar solos. Be it it's usually pretty short and it's pretty contained, but he does well to transition for the final chorus to give it that epic nature and feel. Albeit last 20 seconds using that refrain from the guitar solo that's up just before it into at the end to kind of quote it and finish it all off.
These were more Pedro scales chucked down as well. Yeah. So it shows a little bit of licks off. Again, that's a nice way, because again, it's a nice romantic melodic song.
Awesome.
So
absolutely.
A bit more energy at the end to finish it off.
Number 4 is Wicked Dice, and it's got another great riff to start it off with it. The instrumentation. The verse has this lovely touch of pianos in it, just kind of trickling over the track really softly, really gently. It's quite romantic. The drummer is just pushing this thing forward, though, which is really cool. Keeps it in that metal family. It was almost not lost, but it was great. Chorus is certainly very quick and short-lived, making sure we come back to that really punchy verse again, which transitions with heavier distortion.
Yeah, so this one here, they actually did what I wrote here. What I wrote? You're right. There's more piano into the thing, but it's over like the similar guitar riffs. So even the intro and the verse is like changing, like from piano, the guitar riff seems to be steady throughout.
Yeah, I would say the verse, the singing in this, I'm not sure if it was the vocal delivery or it was just the arrangement in itself, but it felt a little tentative in this track. It didn't feel like it was expressive or as well fleshed out as in the other tracks as well. And I did kind of feel that was kind of a diminishing effect on this particular track. There was a unique breakdown 2 minutes leading into a very jazzy sounding guitar solo though. And there's piano sweeping through the arpeggios in the last chorus, during to the conclusion, the guitar here soft. Wasn't my favorite track with that little blemish though as well. I didn't think that the arrangements for the vocal performance here, and I don't know whose fault that was, I don't know if a guitarist or whatever wrote it, but it's far stronger in other tracks, and in this track, it did kind of take me out of the experience a little bit.
Yeah, one thing they do in this track, and they use quite a lot of, is the bells, the big like, bell hit, chime hit. That's kind of their way to transition from the chorus to the verse to the chorus when they have to step it up a notch, like intensity. They use that, and it's quite effective. It actually is quite good because it's very like just big and grand, and because it has that sustain to it, it actually can blend in nicely to a melody or to like a riff. So it's actually quite, and they use it throughout, even on like just like 4-bar hits just to get a bit of emphasis. So that's kind of like their thing they do, which it's not a bad thing, just what they like to use.
Track 5 is Monster in My Closet. It's percussion's sound to start off the track and to bleed into some big jumpy beats and guitar work. Super cool and unusual, but it's badass. You know, in Tunisia, it translates very well to Western audience. I think anyone here can appreciate a good riff, no matter where it is in the world. Good riffs here on this album, man.
Yeah, I think they try to enhance the experience or the message of the song, because underlying the whole verse, there's like an synth choir, like just haunted underneath. So I guess to reflect what the song's supposed to mean, and then it's kind of that as well when it gets to the chorus. It's a bit more like you're trying to bury your past, bury the monsters, and become brighter day in the morning. So
the verse has got a lot going on, a lot of call and response from the vocals, instrumentation wise as well, and a brightness is lifting into the chorus as well. That was to tease back into the intro riff. It's really good stuff. The second verse has more of that color and expression I was saying from before. They bring it back from the start, but more, you know, so it's good.
Yeah, they bring back the tribal drumming in this as well. Again, probably emphasis that, you know, fighting a demon or a monster there.
Yeah.
Get back to the big melodic chorus, which is, you know, overcoming your demons or monsters or sing a bright day, all that type of stuff.
What they do well here is they feel like the chorus is teased to be longer and more fleshed out and bigger at the end, and they do that, which is really, really cool. It's what you wanted to hear the whole time, the track. You hear the chorus kind of thing, and it teases that it should just kind of be bigger and a bit bigger, and at the end you get that payoff. So it's very intelligent written, this song, and far more interesting and involving than the previous track for sure.
Cool.
Little Twill recording with that scratchy Nevermore intro that I love so much. I don't know if they stole it from him, but I think people should steal from Nevermore more. So I'm going to say that. Acoustic guitars are very light at the beginning. It's very happy into the intro here. It takes a left turn though. It's not in English, obviously, but then it does come in English.
Yeah, only the chorus is English. So they don't care if you understand the verse. They just want you to understand the chorus, which is fine. It's kind of like a Eurovision song.
It does, and that's kind of like a throw into this middle part of the album. It has those Eurovision-y kind of moments and those Bollywood, very accessible choruses that could really make movies. And for them, these guys, they probably deserve to be in one.
Yeah. That intro kind of had to me a whole like Dream Theater Van Halen sound to it, like very like classic 80s progressive type, nice bubbly sounding riffs there, which they use. But then you're right, then it goes into the whole again, big melodic chorus.
Yeah, the other thing on the chorus is a section which I think I really I took notice of. There's lots of ability in playing here that's to check out, but the way they write songs is like this swell and this organic nature that's actually quite hard to do for metal songs, because sometimes with metal you just kind of want to go a miles a minute or just keep it badass the whole time. But these guys, you know, should get credit for making songs, you know, tell their own story and have their own feel and an organic swell to it. And you also get trade-off licks with the guitar, which is, you know, super badass as well. Yeah. So it's another well thought out in the context of the whole song, you know?
Yeah, because even the solo goes well with it. Like the solo,
it always seems to.
Pace homage to the intro where it's like nice 80s feel. Even this full wailing, like full, like, White Snake emotive guitar solo. So.
Oh yeah, White Snake. Again, another band more people should rip off. Yeah, they've got an album out, don't they?
Yeah.
A new one. That's what I'll talk about later. No Holding Back, track 7. This has a more melodic death nature intro in the feel of things. It's those guitars simply laying down those simple quavers, drums just straight up forward, and it's all about having that melody on top, being memorable and being catchy as well. I love doing that stuff. I've done it in my band with As I Destruct, with Question of Faith. The intro is just laying down the guitars, and it's such a simple and effective way to set up a very catchy and easygoing song. But they show off some musicianship with the pressure rolls, for instance, with the drumming. You know, there's like hits on the snares. There's a little clean tones from guitars, soft approach on vocals to increase later on. So it's a good start to things, Danny.
Yeah, they continue that this part here, the middle of the album, is a bit more softer and a bit more stripped back, a bit more emotive, you could say, and this is a bit more poppy and whimsical.
The drumming, especially here, I love the handwork. It's probably some of the best playing off the album for me. It was just some of the variations and the techniques used here were great and super imaginative. I love that kind of stuff. Symphony X, doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, early Symphony X, Dream Theater sounding stuff. Same with the solo, back to the whole 80s style soloing. So they're keeping with the tone of it, nothing trying to jar you there to make it like a lot of bands that make parts heavy or a bit more dynamic just for the sake of it, but you don't need to do that.
We'll note the 251 groove to help move the guitar solo. It's a very smooth transition. The solo, again, there's a nice key change. Daniel loves the key change. The song has one. And the guitar does well to help increase it and bring forth a new dimension to the song. And the ending's really punchy and the drumming's really pushing it to its finale. Guitar solo at the end. It's a good song. Very much though, I think this one here out of all of them is one of those songs that Aladdin really needs to be written for. I mean, that thing's hot at the moment, and maybe they're just on that plane. It's like, let's get some of that Aladdin money.
All right,
You know, they've got the musical, they've got the movie and stuff. Mate, you know, I'll let Steven Spielberg or maybe that writer know, Stephen King, maybe he knows something. All right, we're out to track 8 now with Stardust, a sweet piano intro. It's very tranquil, very nice. Soft touch of the vocal line, very romantic, and then the chorus gets in there, super massive. So, you know, that happened. That was cool.
Yeah, so this, you're right. Again, they're continuing on with that whole, again, romantic, softer approach, then going back into the big chorus.
This song has some interesting changes, though, particularly the second verse. The first at the start was nice, but then there's a slightly darker change. There's some chromatic notes that linger in there and just kind of not abruptly, but just swiftly take away from that nice and clean vibe to it. And it was quite interesting that they did that. And there's a little bit of a gamble with that, because that would have been like, oh, that's a bit jarring, but I think it works really well.
And they kind of tried doing that whole, like, hey. Like, hey, like on the 4th, on the 8th.
I like more when the band doesn't do it. I like it more when it happens live. Even if they write a song that, like, we know the fans are going to do this, let the fans do it. Because I know in Trivium do it, they actually have them go, hey, on the album. It's like so contrived. Like, let the audience do it, you know? Enjoy that time live. But nevertheless, we'll return back to this song. And with the chorus at the end, it returns. It's a little sadder than the first time, I think. Did you notice that the chorus changed at the end than it did at the start? Because it just felt like the song, when it took its second verse, moved on from there. It got a little sad, and the song sounded a little more epic cosmic and actually got me more involved in the story. Or was that just me imagining things, forgetting in my normal nature?
I mean, you got to hear this album a lot to hear all those changes.
Yeah,
so
I respect it though. I'll give them that on that one. Great work. So good work, team. Number 9 is Mersal. And this intro got my attention straight away. The melody is super strong. It's very punchy and very powerful. And strong work from the band here. So leading with their best foot forward. Yeah,
you're right. So it does start now more strings, more simple hits to like get you more rocking, which is, I guess, they've eventually had to go that way. Otherwise, the rest of the album would just be soft. So they decided now become more intense. The next song is even more heavier, but they're slowly building up into that one there.
There's a flute solo in this song.
Yeah,
loved it. Absolutely loved it. They'll bring in Hammond's song later, but this one had super strong choruses. The second verse, super tight passage that transitions very strong into the next chorus. And these things didn't take mention as well. Even the ending with it being super strong, great. Helped me put this track as one of my favorites. And I did not expect to like a track this late. Normally your filler comes in here, and I felt like the fillers came a little bit earlier on this album.
Well, this is interesting again, because the verse and the chorus, it almost seems like the same type of instrumentation.
Yeah.
The singing's the only thing which really makes it more dynamic, maybe a bit more like in the bell hit and stuff. But it seems quite a unique thing they did there. Like it kind of like, that's unexpected.
It was.
Considering the rest of the songs, they build up like big transition or break it down before a big sounding chorus. It kind of was like the same feel throughout. So it's good for them to break it up. And then you have the flute solo came there, which is nice. You know, the flute player rarely gets a solo.
Yeah. I don't think they have to bring in a flute player.
Yeah,
unless the guitarist does.
Synth. Maybe they got like a synth effect.
Maybe.
Piano.
It sounds like a real one. They got the real deal. Good on them. Number 10 is The Darkness Arise. A twist here with a happy and dark leads that drift in and out, sounding a little unusual. The guitarist really is doing most of that work there. It's this lick that has some happy tones and some dark tones. Some people froth over that shit, man. They're like, wow, that's what music's all about. It's kind of moving the language across borders and stuff. Some people find it kind of weird though. What do you think?
Well, this was actually, I think, a really good song because it was probably the heaviest song of the album.
Triply. You know, we get those triplets like that kind of thing that automatically makes it heavier.
Yeah, like I'm death metal song. Yeah, like I'm
doesn't necessarily make it good, it just makes it heavier. And
and even the vocals reflect it. Like he probably put the most amount of grunt and energy into his vocals in the song. Like quite powerful.
Yeah, I love the chorus. They do that major 6. I don't know that one might mean much for you, but on the chords in the chorus, the guitar work, it's really cool. It's a nice use of jumping in there at that major minor keys, and they do it here again in the chorus, and they kind of tease it at the start of the song. It's very. I don't know if this was deliberately done, Danny, but I was super impressed. I'm like, this Tunisian guys know how to write songs, man.
Yeah, because the pre-chorus is a bit more mysterious if you want to use a simple word for it, and then breaks off with a big sounding chorus, groove, heavy strings, all that stuff.
We talked Hammond organs before, and here they are in this track. And I'm super glad that the most bluesiest track off the album, I guess at points, has the most bluesiest thing and the most Deep Purple singing here, and that Hammond organ fits like a glove.
Yeah, no, it's great because out of that chorus, they did know one of those whole like, hey things, and then that went to the solo, which led into the piano solo, which is the Hammond organ, which is surprising because I didn't use it throughout the whole. They used a lot of piano work on this album, but not much to it was the Hammond organ. But maybe they thought this song here is close to sound like Perfect Strangers, heavy. So they thought, well, let's go with that for this, and it went well.
Great track. I loved it too. I thought it was fantastic. And with that, we're at the last track now with Shehili, the title track as well.
Doing like a Nevermore thing where the title track's the last song.
Yeah, good on him. I wish, man, don't make me say that because now I wish I was listening to them. This is good. This is good. It actually has a like a swell from the strings and that, which is actually a Demi Borgir similar thing as well. They do it with Puritanic Metamphoric Creations, one of those tracks they use it with, and it's exactly the same lead, but it doesn't go into a blast beat or whatever. It's good though. It's got some acoustic guitar work, which should not go unnoticed. It's very tasty. The chorus here is obviously epic. It's obviously bringing us home as well. It does well. Wooden instrumentation, Danny, in the next section. Why not? We've heard everything else from the kitchen sink to the flute, and with some more different styles of that. I think we've got to some big, powerful chords, and there's a lot of emotion that I found here, and it really sums up the band. It's very epic. And piano sounding very mysterious at times, 30 sections. Yeah. Pretty much kind of like giving you the whole thing that you got to experience.
And it's not even that long of a song. Like they didn't make it like a 6 or 7 minute epic song. They still kept like every song in his albums between 3.5, 4.5, 5 minutes. So
and I'm glad they let the ending, they kind of let it drum out a bit as well, because with these songs, most of the time they just kind of end. It's like, dun, and it's like, that's it. Like they kind of almost finish abruptly. And I think against the feel of the song, because it's so much more epic in nature, to hear some of it ring out a little bit, and you kind of like just getting that like just that final satisfaction from a great track. And they do it for this track in particular, but not others. And that would have been nice to hear them do it with other tracks as well. Kind of let us savor that moment, enjoy having those aromas in our mouth or through our nose, sort of stuff, like a good glass of wine.
Sure, why not? Well, this song here finished with like a horn or organ sounding out type thing, like fade out. No bell hits to end with.
No bell hits to end with.
Should have had a bell hit to end with, like a ding to like put a cherry on top. But no, again, you're right. A bit more mercy last song. That makes sense. I mean, you make it a very progressive, very motive album. Bit of heavy at times, bit groovy at times. You want it to be not heavy. You just had a heavy song before. You want it to wrap up, and this makes sense.
That's it now. We're done. The album is done, and we should now talk a little bit about with what we thought about the album overall. I will like you to go first because I do have a few things I wanted to say. What do you want to talk about, Danny?
Well, I was a bit surprised. I wasn't knowing what to expect with this band. First time I heard this band. It started again very native to them, with their like chanting and scale work and in the instrumentation at the start. So I again didn't know what to expect, but straight away it started. One thing I will say is the structure of these songs is not where most of the imagination lies. Most of this is a very much pop, classic rock orientation, where it's your intro, your verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end. Like, I found that pretty much across the board for all these songs, that in a sense, I mean, it's a tried and true formula. It works like a T. But where these guys get most creative is in the detail. And I guess the devil is in the detail, and we are playing the devil's music. So let's talk about some of the details I like from this album. Particularly the instrumentation. It's very unique. I have not heard those instrumentation, and the way they execute those ideas, using certain exotic sounds and trills and
bringing certain colors in and introducing others later on to use epic fill. So that was really cool, and I thought, did you get a kick out of some of those nice little sounding instruments as well?
Yeah. And not just that, it's like different choruses and different verses, even though the bass is the same. They will chuck in a little guitar riff, or chuck in like a little horn or bell or synth or flute solo to make it just different every time.
Next up, the guitar work. Obviously, I'm a guitarist, and I love hearing certain bands shred and do their thing. But this guy here has a certain dedication to his craft, and he really works his music around the whole story and around everything else, like whether he's doing trade-offs with the singer or the keyboardist, whether he's doing a guitar solo, like that's a reflection of the nature of a song, or just writing badass riffs to get your attention almost instantly. This guy delivers on all fronts, and I think he's probably one of the strongest things about this album for me, particularly.
Yeah, no, definitely right. I mean, yeah, most of the times when it comes to these progressive bands, the guitarist does the most work. So, yeah. But right, he does a lot in there. You have the nice little licks, which are quite sweet.
But everyone across the board, we got the keyboardist. So again, he's adding different ideas across the whole entire spectrum, you know, from the light piano tones to your harder stuff and all the symphony work as well. The drummer with some superb handwork as well, like I was saying before in those songs. You have those, like you said, Dream Theater, Symphony X moments where you have that super proggy, lovely, displaced ideas, you know. It was a sure treat to hear this playing done and to hear it done on the other side of the world, and just hearing these guys do it. I think they've nailed it, Danny, with this album in a sense. I think it's really good. I will give a bit of a caveat though, where I think we should really put like bands like Symphony X and what separates the probably best prog metal bands in the world against Myrath, for instance. And what I think Symphony X does is take a few more gambles with their music. And what I like to say with that is, again, like uses of really complex and unusual time signatures, use of extended sections, even song structures that aren't across the board in all the songs, you know, they take certain deviations. A lot of the stuff off the Underworld album, which we talked about last week, like Legend, for instance, that song, that doesn't have a section. It just has an overall arc and feeling. Yeah, that intro is so badass, but so is the ending, and so is everything else in between. And there's certain more risks and gambles that band takes and executes perfectly, even in so long in their discography as well. This band here, I think they take it safe with their arrangement in the sense of the song structure, but they take those gambles and I think they're trying to perfect their craft and telling a decent story in the confines of a certain structure. And in that instance, I don't want to say they're like a Symphony X or Dream Theater Light, but I think if it's for people who love progressive music but don't want to be bogged down with maybe 8-minute songs or whatever, and just like to have a short and happier occasion to really get invested in. And I think this album is perfect for him, Danny.
Yeah, that's true. With most songs being around that 4.5 minute mark, makes sense, yeah.
The singing might be the paradox, though, for some people, because I know when it comes to those flamboyant singers like Warrell Dane, for instance, for Nevermore, I can honestly say that I can see why certain people won't like his style of voice. It seems very operatic and rah-rah-rah. And this guy might have a bit of Warrell Danus about him, but like just not so much the sound, but maybe that feel from the listener.
Well, yeah. I mean, this guy's tone is more of a
it's not bad.
Yeah, and it's very nice. I don't want to say generic, but more like a classic tone to his voice. There's no like weird inflections or weird things which might grind your teeth. He
does that native tongue, so he has a good variety. It's all very soft and lovely. So I think he's got depth to it, but he doesn't have obviously the power or the conviction as Russell Allen would, for instance, and stuff like that.
I mean, he's definitely got power, like in that second to last song there. He does have like, he gets up high with good power. He just
he did that one high note for one track.
That was
insane, actually. Yeah. No, maybe I'm being too hard on the guy. Yeah.
Again, it's just different tones, but no, I thought he was great. He had great feel, great control, good range on him.
You could feel that he believes every single word that came out of his mouth. And there's only one track which I think it just didn't work for me, which is the only blemish on that. Yeah, it was fine, you know. The distortion work was consistent over the way through. It was a fine, enjoyable experience. And I think it is a light exchange for the prog metal side, but I think one that general fans can get behind to a degree, you know. These guys could fit on any slot for most bands and do quite well.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely worth a check. If you like just hard rock, progressive metal, things from the 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely worth listening to.
If you're into power metal or prog metal, this is your band you need to check out because I think it's like a super effective band to get you instantly hooked. And they do a great job of just cutting out anything that might take away from the song and more about immersing you in that quick story, quick fun story. And it all seems to tie together well in the end. There was a lot of happy moments, sad moments, romantic moments, powerful moments, and it was all here. It was very good, Danny. Do you want to? We should start giving ratings to these albums. What do you reckon?
Well, it'll help us out for the end of the year. I guess.
Absolutely. What would you give these guys ratings out of 5?
Out of 5, at least a 4.
I'll give it 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5 is always too generic. It's like, nah, you're not committed to it.
Like, because I mean, here's the thing. If I'm gonna give, like I said, I just said like how I think Symphony X, for instance, they're gonna get a 5, and they just lacked a few of those elements for me to do it.
Because 3.5 is a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like 7.5 to 8. That's why.
There you go. Good on you, Dan. Well, there you go, guys. Thank you guys so much for checking us with Myrath out.
And in the words of Myrath, open yourself for me, like a soul searching to flee. In all that silence, be free. I'd like you to hear my plea.
Thank you guys for checking us out with Myrath with Shehili. We've got more albums to check out this year, and if you guys want us to review a certain album, leave us a comment and a like, and we make sure to review your favorite album of 2019. And if you guys are up for it, we can do a retro review talking about maybe one of your favorite albums from the past. We've done quite a lot of those on our SoundCloud if you guys want to check that out as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think SoundCloud might be running out soon, actually.
Oh, that's all right. You'll see us on YouTube, so good for that, right?
Easy.
I'm Super Mario Brother Matt.
And I'm Super Mario Brother Dan.
We are the Super Mario Brothers. Catch you guys next week.